I want to talk about the concept of a race war because I know some of you guys will say, that's crazy. Race war? Are you really entertaining that notion? I mean, I'm not necessarily entertaining the notion. It's more like the other group of people are consistently not only perpetuating the idea, but almost feels like it's being pushed down upon us. And the idea of a race war, for me personally, if you ask me generally, I think we are kind of already in a race war. Like if you look at social media, if you look at the two parties who are consistently going at each other, it does feel like we're already in a race war. But let me track back a little bit and let you guys know what I'm talking about. So, ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter and turned that platform into a cesspool of degeneracy and absolute chaos, and I mean that in the most lightest way possible, ever since he took over that platform, right, I have noticed an increased amount of hateful comments and hateful tweets coming from a certain group of people. And they're specifically aimed at my people. These Twitter accounts, right, their primary targets for hate is always those of African descent. And they would always showcase the worst aspects consistently, right? And then the headlines of these tweets are always, inflammatory. They're trying to invoke a radical emotion. How long do you think we can take this? Or how long before we have to fight back? Or how long before society comes crumbling down? And things of that nature. And it's always aimed towards Black Americans, but obviously the idea behind these tweets is to go from a broader scale towards all people of African descent, African community. Which is funny because for every video that they have, you can find the equivalent with white people doing the exact same thing, but most people don't really spend that time finding those videos because this is what I mean when I say we are kind of already in a race war, because it's always these certain groups of people who happen to be of I can't even specifically say what race it is because sometimes I'll see an Asian person, some Malaysian dude is consistently trying to start a civil war in America, but he lives in fucking Malaysia. Or you'll find a white person with a white account spewing some of the most hateful shit. It's always a one-sided attack that's coming from that group of people, where a lot of these people of white Eurocentric background in America feel like they're being attacked. Generally, they're not being attacked. They really are not. But because of their upbringing and how they were placed at the center of their own world, when that world came crumbling down, it basically felt the same as being attacked. So they ended up gravitating to these hateful narratives and creating accounts that seem to be only focused on showing that civilization is in decline because people of different backgrounds just happen to be living in those environment. People are saying, oh man, race war is going to happen one day, race war is going to happen, but I believe in generally that we are currently in a race war. It's kind of like America and Russia during the Cold Wars. I don't think they initially fought, obviously. It was more like propaganda being thrown back and forth, one country painting the other country as a bad place, fearing the worst. Americans with the communists are going to invade us one day. And then the Russians are always saying, the Americanized Western ideology will destroy the world, things of that nature. This is the exact same thing that is happening between those of European background, which is, like I said, a faction. Now, I can't even say it's a small faction anymore, because if you look at Europe, for example, it's becoming very much right-leaning, far right-leaning. Many far-right politicians are taking position in power. So this isolated group of people that we would like to call them racist or fascist or whatever the case may be, they're growing more powerful by the day. It's no longer a small community of riffraffs. It's now people in great position of power who are going to make decisions that will have drastic impact to everybody else who's just trying to live a reasonably and quiet life, essentially. And the same thing can be said in America as well. America is as divisive as it's ever been in the past 10 years. It's just getting worse. There are angles that are being played right now that I don't think people are noticing. In my honest opinion, I don't think people are generally noticing the shift in the climate. Things are not sweet out here. we are consistently under attack by a powerful group of people. Like, and the reason why I'm speaking on this now is because, like I said before, like I mentioned earlier on in the video, ever since Elon Musk took over that platform, I have seen more hate. And let's be clear, I was already aware that this hate existed thanks to TikTok. TikTok gave me a glimpse of how people generally feel about us. Every day, hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people consistently make content aimed at attacking those of African descent. And a lot of their stereotypes and grievances that they tend to have, yes, again, it revolves around Black Americans. Black Americans are like their target audience that they want to aim at, but then they take that and kind of like expand it to all forms of people of African background, right? They'll talk about basically all the bad things, every possible thing that they can think of, they just go at it. And it really does feel like reminiscent to how America and Russia would consistently create propaganda to diminish each other's, images and standing amongst the global community. But in this sense, it's a bunch of people of European descent, right? Because oftentimes I know that there are those who are Arab, who hate us, who are Asians, who hate it. We're pretty much not liked, let's be honest. But it's mostly Europeans who spend every waking moment creating content this specifically aimed at attacking us and destroying our image and standing in the international sphere, so to speak. And TikTok is a great, and I mean a great tool for propaganda. It is exceptional. You can reach a mass amount of people in a short amount of time, spreading a huge amount of misinformation consistently. And the same thing can be said on Twitter now. Like, Twitter is consistently showcasing videos up and down, making us look bad. And it makes me, and the thing is, when I saw these videos and these TikTok videos, it made me realize one thing. These people are extremely obsessed with us, because you don't see most of us, like specifically Black Americans, ever retaliating or wasting their time creating their own forms of propaganda. That's why I'm saying that the race war has begun years ago, but it's a one-sided battle, because they are essentially attacking us, and we are either defending ourselves by, fighting back the misinformation with factual information, or we're just ignoring it. A majority of us tend to ignore it and not participate in it, right? Essentially, because they look at it more as it's a form of degeneracy, or it's a form of incel energy that it's below them. But it's like, the problem with this is that although you want to look at these people as incels or losers or whatever the case may be, these people are creating content that will genuinely outlive them. They are going to be circling the internet for quite some time. There have been content that have been made that keep on resurfacing 5 years later on. And they're spreading misinformation at a high rate, to be honest with you. And I try to understand why they're making this content, and after a while it's just like, hate has no reason. It has no validation. They just do it because they just hate us. Now it makes me wonder, okay, are we stepping up to ensure that people who look like me are gonna be safe wherever they go? Like, are we making the decisions? Are we moving in the right path? And I'll be honest with you, I don't even think we're moving in the right path. I think we're weakening ourselves, personally. We're having discussions about things that don't even yield much of a fruit for our progress, our prosperity, and all that stuff. I'll give you an example. Look at Nick Fuentes, for example. We all know who he is. He was basically unknown for quite some time until he ended up on Destiny's stream and got the publicity boost that he needed to end up meeting Kanye West and reach an even further group of people. Then you have Alex Jones, Alex Jones is Alex Jones, but now he's back on Twitter, so he's gonna be able to say the things that he wanna say. I don't know, it's like, things are not looking good. Things are not looking good, bro. Bad actors are attacking people. Let me be very clear, like, people of European descent, whether they're in Europe or in America, are constantly creating content specifically aimed to attack those of African descent. And they're trying their best, and I mean they're trying their absolute best, to genuinely start a race war. That's the best way I can put it. It's the word that most of us know, or the phrase to be more precise, a race war. If it's not a race war, they're trying to start a civil war in America, which will be heavily blended with race, ideology, and all types of nonsense. They're not giving up. And I highly doubt they'll ever stop, which is why I think it's important that we actually start sharpening up ourselves and pay attention to the clues and hints that we'll see in their videos and things like that. Okay, if it's not us, most of the time they're attacking the Jews. Let's be real. If it's not us, they're attacking the Jews, so it is what it is, bro. It is what it is. Like, people generally truly believe that society will crumble if white people lose power in wherever else. I don't know. Oftentimes their goal for this is to create separation. They want to create separation between the races because they feel like we just cannot get along. Because of our differences, we can't get along, right? These people truly believe that they are the heart and center of civilization, even though you have, the Middle Easterns and the East Africans who are literally the start and beginning of civilization themselves. They would not be where they are if it wasn't for these groups of people. But let's talk about separation, because the entire goal with creating this propaganda is to create divide and separation. They want to convince people, especially those of European descent, that they are under attack, that the big, scary Africans and Arabs and maybe even Asians, which is true by the way, when Asian Americans move into a white American neighborhood, white Americans tend to leave those neighborhoods. Which is funny because they've always viewed Asian communities as the model minority, so why are you running away from them? They should be your best friend, but they want separations. And I believe that separation is not in the way that they want. So their idea of a separation is that they get to keep the lands that they've gotten. So America, Canada, Argentina, maybe Brazil, I guess, and some other South American country, Australia. That's their domain. Everybody else has to get out of those domains and go back to their native homeland. So Africans back to Africa, Asians back to Asia, Middle Eastern back to Middle Eastern. And on top of that, we'll keep the status quo. So if they have military bases in the Middle East or in Africa, those will stay. If they have companies who are siphoning resources from Africa, those will stay. And this idea of how they want to create this separation is futile and nonsense. Because if you really wanted a pure separation of all the races, it would mean that people of European descent would have to leave the Americas, North and South America, because that belongs to the native people of that continent who founded that region first and settled upon it. They would also have to leave Australia because the Aboriginals claimed that land for their own and have settled there long before the Europeans showed up. And more importantly, they would also have to leave South Africa because the native South Africans have already claimed that land for hundreds of thousands of years until the Dutch people showed up on their lands. Which is funny to me because I just remembered that some South Africans are trying to separate South Africa from Cape Town in an attempt to create a pseudo-ethno state. It's funny enough that these are the things that they're worried about might happen in America or in Europe, but they have no problem supporting white South Africans doing that on the continent that they claim to be Africans for Africa. Weird shit, I know. And I mean, pure separation would also mean that any company and any military bases that are available or stationed in the continent will have to be removed immediately. All trades between Africa and Europe or Africa and the West, which is America, will be cut off completely. Like, it will be complete isolation. You will not get any of the resources that comes from Africa. You'll have to get your resources somewhere else. Pure utter separation. You see how unrealistic and stupid this shit sounds? But that is exactly what they're advocating for. That is truly what they're trying to go for, and they're 100% serious in trying to do that, and they will do anything to accomplish this. And if that means somehow figuring out a way to destroy you guys systematically without them having to lay a finger, they're going to do it. But yeah, that's just my thoughts and opinion on it. I don't really want to go off too much. Like I said before, the racism, the race war has begun. It has begun since the 1600s at this point, with all the pseudoscience that they created in the 1600s to basically dehumanize and deny any accomplishment that we Africans have done for thousands of years. It's basically a war. It has all the hallmarks of a genuine war. So while these racist, incel white people, not all white people obviously, but the specific ones who are crying out that there's going to be a race war and white people will have to fight to defend themselves, it's funny because from our perspective, we've been at war with these people consistently. They have not stopped, they're not going to stop, and they're going to continue to do this because we have laxed in our effort to continue to fight this. Now we're having this mentality of ignoring them and turning the other cheek. I think it's a bad idea. I don't think we should be doing that at all. I know it can be frustrating to see negative stuff happening all the time, but at some point we need to really stay active, stay vigilant, stay knowledgeable, and consistently educate ourselves at everything that these people do because they're not stopping. We are living in their minds rent free, and it's quite dangerous. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the video in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.